Unit 5, the Executive Branch. The executive branch's powers and responsibilities are listed in Article 2. The executive branch enforces laws. In addition, the president also signs bills into laws. The leader of the U.S. executive branch is the president. The leader of the state executive branch is the governor. The Electoral College. A presidential candidate needs at least 270 electoral votes to win. The vice president is also elected by the Electoral College. Electoral votes are more important than popular votes in determining who becomes the president. The Presidential Cabinet. The cabinet advises the president. The vice president is part of the cabinet. After the vice president is the Department of State, and it is led by the Secretary of State. It is in charge of foreign relations. It works with embassies and the United Nations. The Department of the Treasury is led by the Secretary of the Treasury. They are in charge of enforcing taxes, interstate commerce, and counterfeiting laws. The Department of Defense is led by the Secretary of Defense. They oversee the 4 military branches: the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard. Also the Marines. It used to be called the Department of War. The Department of Justice is led by the Attorney General. They are in charge of prisons, the FBI, and Immigration and Naturalization Services, INS. There are also the Departments of Education, Transportation, Energy, Commerce, Labor, and Housing. Their responsibilities include anything related to their name. Department of Education talks about different standards for education. Department of Transportation discusses different standards for transportation, such as making an interstate highway system. Department of Energy focuses on creating energy, such as using fossil fuels and renewable energy like solar power. The Department of Commerce discusses trade and business. The Department of Labor is in charge of labor conditions, including how many hours someone should be working, and they enforce that. The Department of Health and Human Services is in charge of anything related to a person's health. And the Department of Housing and Urban Development is in charge of providing assistance to people for housing, as well as city planning. For example, the FHA is related to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The line of succession. This is who is in charge if the president cannot lead anymore. That means if the president resigned, died, was impeached, or something else, the vice president would then become president. If both the president and vice president were not able to lead, then it would go to the Speaker of the House. If all three were not able, then the President pro temp of the Senate, then the Secretary of State, then Secretary of Treasury, then Secretary of Defense, then the Attorney General. It goes all the way down the rest of the other agencies or departments. Now let's talk about regulatory agencies. These agencies enforce millions of laws. There's the FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration. They are in charge of establishing standards and checking the quality of food and drugs. The Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, enforces clean air, clean water, and other laws relating to pollution and the environment. The Federal Communications Commission, or the FCC, regulates the media, including anything on the radio, the television, or the internet. The Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, regulates air safety laws. This includes air traffic control and safety inspections on airplanes. The Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, enforces fair business laws. This includes preventing monopolies and ensuring consumer protection against things that could hurt people who buy products. Presidential powers. The president can sign or veto laws passed by Congress. Signing a law makes it a bill. Vetoing a bill kills the bill or sends it back to Congress. The president can appoint federal judges and cabinet members, but the Senate must approve them. The last one, executive orders. They are commands given by the president with the same strength of a law, but do not need Congress to approve them. However, the Supreme Court can still rule them constitutional or unconstitutional. This is the end of Unit 5. Unit 6 is the next video,